Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode number 65 of Preston Jensen's podcast. If you're new here, I'm your host, Preston. Tonight, I've got a very special guest coming out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. I was going to say Kyle Watts, but I see on Instagram it's Kyle Walton. So I guess I should have asked you before the show, what do you prefer and why the name change?
My name is obviously, it is Kyle Walton. It was kind of a nickname that started in high school, maybe middle school, where my friends kind of started calling me Watson.
Okay.
And then they got lazy and just started going Watts. So I pretty much at one point I just started using that as kind of like social media stuff, and then it just kind of stuck. So went with it.
Tell us a little bit about your career in YouTube. Are you fairly new to it, or how long have you been into it, and what kind of got you into the creative space?
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been a couple years. We started a channel with my wife back a couple years ago where we're trying to do travel things like that. And kind of a hard thing to do if you're not full-time traveling, but also,
Right.
Coronavirus obviously made that end kind of pretty quickly. So we were trying to do a lot of like events and travel-y kind of YouTube stuff. And I think I started watching a lot of like gear channels just to like see what I should be using or what I should be getting. And then I kind of got to the point where I was just like, I kind of want to do that. I started doing
Ex-
more like gear orientated channels. So
exactly. It seems like that was kind of an easy route for me too. It's like, man, I've been watching all these videos, and it seems like it would be so much fun to get into that space. And how does it feel to actually do it and do it with success? Because I've watched your video that really sticks out in my mind is the video with the I don't even know what the product is called, but it's your B-roll video, and the intro to that is some of the best B-roll I've ever seen. Can you tell us a little bit about that video?
I'm thinking you're probably talking about the one with the like hoverboard snowboard.
Yes. Yep.
That one. Okay. Yeah.
Yep.
So I kind of filmed that video as a way to show off that snowboard because I just
Okay.
got the vinyl wrap done
Yep.
from a shop down here in Minneapolis. And it kind of was like, I want to do something with this because when you make something that cool, it's just kind of like, well, what's the easiest way to show this off and make a video out of it? So I kind of thought I had some gear that I hadn't used yet and made a video on. It was kind of this little like motorized kind of slider dolly thing. And decided to kind of shoot that and then kind of go behind the scenes on how to use that as kind of the actual video. But first and
And
foremost, that video was kind of to show off that snowboard first. So
well, it was a very cool snowboard, very cool shoes too. I don't know if that was meant to be highlighted in there too, but very cool shoes. Are those like Back to the Future shoes or something?
those are yep, they're the Air Mags from 2015.
Okay, see, and I have actually never seen Back to the Future before, but after watching some of your videos, I've seen a lot of Back to the Future references. Is that,
Hmm.
I'm guessing, favorite movie?
It's up there. If it's probably, I mean, my wife will probably tell you it's number one with a bullet, but
Okay.
um, for me, it's just like when I have this in my background, I've had this here the whole time.
It's
It's
sweet.
kind of something where it's like it's not really camera gear oriented, but it's film oriented to me. So I'm not going to take it out, and plus they were expensive, so it's a good way to put them in the background and show them off.
Absolutely. I think you had recently been to Universal Studios in Orlando. Is that,
Yeah, well, we went to Disney recently, but I
oh,
mean, I've
Disney?
been
Okay.
there been there plenty of times anyways.
I
So
was going to say, I went to Universal Studios and I saw the car sitting there. So that's been the closest I've ever got to Back to the Future. But I'll have to check it out after this episode
yeah,
and see what
well,
everyone's
they
raving
always
about.
say the first movie was like the perfect script and the perfect film.
Well, I'll have to
So
check it
yeah.
out. I'm excited to see that. So, have you always been interested in film and creating?
Yeah, I mean, I back in like high school, I went through like 4 years of like different media productions. We did the like news channel in the morning.
Awesome.
Our high school actually won like a few Emmys for that for like best news channel
Wow.
broadcast for high school level. I don't know if they give that out all over the place or what it is, but
Well, that's still
um,
pretty impressive. That's
yeah,
I've
I
never
mean, it
even
was
heard
fun.
of that competition, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what went into that, but it's one of those things where I got to like the point where they were kicking me out of the class because I'd been in it too long. So I started Media Productions 3, which was kind of a independent course, which is
Awesome.
basically it was a fake class that we made so that I could continue doing work on like the morning broadcast stuff. So
Well, I bet they were
um,
sorry to lose you when you graduated. I bet they were
yeah,
like, "Oh man, now who's going to do all this work?"
yeah, we had a guy in our class whose dad was like a Hollywood movie guy, so
Wow.
we always got all these cool things that we had like no business having as a high school. Like back, I mean, we're talking back in like the late '90s where we were getting like crazy different chroma key and green screen stuff, which
Wow.
now is like you can get that for any computer, but
Mhm.
back then that was not something that was readily available. So
So after high school, did you go on to college and learn more about the film industry, or did you
I
just get right
didn't.
in? Okay.
Yeah, I wanted to, and then I ended up getting like really into cars, and I ended up kind of just going into like auto body. We're just doing like auto body repair, custom paint work, stuff like that. And it was kind of like the day, kind of funny story. The day like Super Troopers came out,
Okay.
you watch that movie and you see it's like five guys that clearly were like best friends or went to school together or something. And that reminded me of like those group projects you do in high school with like videos where they kind of just made their own movie, made their own script, somehow starred in it. And I was like, that's what I really wanted to do. And then I got to the point where I kind of picked it back up again for fun and started doing more videos and never really posted anything, but we were just kind of making short films and having fun with it. So
Well, it sounds like you're very connected in the YouTube community. I know before this interview, we talked a little bit about, well, I like the video you made for producer Paul. And if you haven't
yep.
seen that, he hit a milestone on his channel and you created a fantastic tribute for him. Um, Tell us what goes into something like that, because reaching out to all those YouTubers and getting them to send something had to be a lot of work for one
A lot of
video.
work, yeah. So first off, like Paul found my channel a while back, and then since then he's been like really supportive of my channel,
Okay,
constantly
awesome.
posting my videos all over the place. I've made really good friends with him. I actually just went down to Florida and hung out with him and his wife for like a weekend. But he kind of pushed to get me to 1,000 using his platform and then made like a fun video with that. So I was kind of like, well, I have to do the same thing. So I started kind of planning on what I was going to do, and he was getting close, but I could kind of see where he was, how fast he was going to get there. Thought I had like a week or so, maybe a week or two, and then so I started reaching out to a lot of people that I know him, and like he comments, and he's friends with like everybody on YouTube because he is a part of everyone's channel. I feel like when you're a guy who like comments on everybody's stuff, people start to know you after a while, and
Right.
he just kind of built a nice network community between all these different YouTubers. And so I kind of saw who like followed him, and I started messaging everyone, and half the people read it right away, and some people I got back to kind of late. But it was definitely kind of one of those like, hey, can I get this video? And everyone was like, absolutely, Paul's a great guy. And so they started sending me videos, and then he was on his channel that he works with Original Dobo. Ken kind of at the end of their like live stream said, "Let's get Paul to 1,000," and like Ken had just sent me his video, so I think he was feeling okay about it. And I thought I had like a week to go, maybe to get everything together and edit a video and have it ready for when he
Oh
actually hit
man.
1,000. And Ken got him there in like one night. He just gained like 70 subscribers off his channel, and had to work really quick at that point. And few people that hadn't responded or hadn't quite got to the videos, I just said, "Hey, I need something tonight. If not, we're just gonna finish the video because I got to post it tomorrow." And so there was a few people that got left out on that one that wanted to do it, but didn't have a chance to quite either film or get me the video. So, but
Uh,
they all messaged him anyways, so he still
I
got his
can't
thing
imagine
estimated.
the stress level of making something like that and having the crunch time coming up, and then it's like, oh
Mm.
man, I've got to get this done now. But
Like I
uh,
knew some of the people too, like some of the YouTube guys that I reached out to, I had never like spoke to before, so it was a little weird. But a lot of the other ones, like I know I've been a presence kind of like Paul online, where you're constantly commenting and talking back and forth with people on Instagram and stuff like that. So some of them it was just kind of like, oh yeah, sure, man, I'll get you a video right away. And but yeah, some of the other ones were um, harder to get. So
And I'm
or at least
sure he
awkward.
really appreciated it when this was all completed. I mean,
Yeah,
for someone to go through all the work to get that done, that says a lot. So, congratulations to him for the awesome milestone, but congratulations to you as well for getting that completed because that is quite a feat. Um,
yeah. I mean, I like to think that YouTube is just kind of one big community network, and a lot of times the people who comment the most on back and forth between people's channels are other creators. So,
right.
I mean, there's a lot of people who are fans, obviously, that comment, but I notice a lot of times creators like to comment back and forth between themselves a lot more too. So, but
Yes, and
you know,
I've
it's a nice community because I think everyone knows when you're involved in YouTube, like how much work it is and stress levels, and so many times where you just kind of want to like you hit a wall and you need that like support from people. And so it's definitely is like a nice, you know, community, and it's not just a website you go to watch videos. And
right,
that's
and
kind of the way I like to see it anyway. So
seems like everyone is so supportive, which is awesome. It seems like a great community to just reach out and, like you said, talk about some things that are happening on your channel that a lot of people who don't make videos don't know about. So,
mhm.
how about your typical workflow? How long does it take you to create one video?
It really depends. I mean, if it like I always do this thing where I come up with this really awesome idea in my head, it probably is going to take like 6 or 7 people to help me do it. And then I have to figure out how am I going to do this without 6 or 7 people. So I like to think too high, I think sometimes, and then I have to kind of minimize it and backtrack it to where it's like feasible and doable. Um, I, I, I'm pretty much in the spot where I make the video for next week, that week. I know a lot of people like to bank up, you know, videos in the background so they can post stuff when they're busy or something like that. The problem with that is I've done that in the past. You do that, and then all of a sudden you put out those videos when you are busy, and then you're back to where you were again. So it
Y-
makes sense if you're constantly continuing to still put one out every week, and then you just
r-
have that fail safe video. But
So you're saying you
um,
kind of get lethargic and then you get
yeah, for me, it's like for me, I get either busy or I'm depending on something. Like I was doing an ND filter video where like Freewell had sent me a product, and I had like a month to work on it. But you get to that point where like I got a month, I'll deal with this in a couple weeks. And then when it came time to start filming, it was like really cloudy out for like 2 weeks straight in
oh
Minnesota.
no.
And I was just kind of like, well, this really stinks because like the point of this thing is to be outside in the sun, and I
Right.
can't showcase that well. So I just had to pick the brightest day that was kind of cloudy and kind of show it from there, and then do more examples like inside the studio against like color contrasting and stuff like that. So,
So talk
but
a little bit about client work. You said you mentioned Freewell sent you something.
hmm.
What kind of pressure do you have with client work like that?
Well, I mean, they had sent out like I had that for like a month, so it was kind of like they said this will be an expected date of when we're going to release it. So you have this much time. Here's, you know, they actually sent us a couple videos on how to use the product, which was kind of nice. And I, for the most part, you once they gave you the actual deadline, then it's just kind of like, well, then it's easy to follow because you know when you need to start, and you know when you need to have it done by. If you had it done a couple days early, they said send it to them so they can like put it on their website. Um, as long as you don't fall too far behind it, I feel like that's nice when they give you like a hard deadline. It's when they kind of give you a, well, this might be out in 2 weeks or maybe 3 weeks, and you're just like, well, now I have to put it in 2 weeks. So what is it?
Right.
You know,
And
um,
is that something they make you do revisions? Do you have to send it to them and then you have to do
if
revisions
it's like a
on?
paid thing,
Mm-hmm.
probably. I haven't done many sponsored stuff on this channel yet. I've had some stuff sent to me that were, you know, most of the time it's like you're releasing it on the day that they're releasing it. So that's, you know, a little easier to kind of know. And it's nice to be on the front side of that too when your product comes out first on the on you know on like your channel when they first put out the product, your video is right there ready to go instead of like 2 months later, something like that. There's kind of a weird side of that too, is like when you're going to write titles and descriptions and stuff, it's sometimes kind of weird to take like a product that doesn't exist and know what to do for titles because they're not really keyword searched yet. So you kind of just have to think like what's it gonna be and go with that. And then, you know, like other videos, like if you're doing a review on like this microphone, I can go watch 10 reviews of this microphone and kind of get an idea what I want to talk about. But if it's like a brand new product, you kind of have to just do your own work and um, completely figure it out yourself, which is sometimes a challenge too, where like some of these products are confusing and it's nice to see someone else talk about it first to kind of get you an idea what you're doing. But it's
Yeah,
yeah.
th I mean, that always kind of seemed like a goal for me. Like, that would be awesome if someone actually sent me something to review. But then when you hear the other side of it, like, the deadlines and all that, then it kind of is like, oh man, that's kind of spooky.
It's not so bad. I mean, a lot of these products too, like I get all these things every day where they're, like Amazon sellers trying to sell you a light,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
where, they want you to buy it and they'll refund you and then you do the video on it and they let you keep the product. A lot of those videos, you can just do them on your own time rate, time
Yep.
frame and
Right.
get them done. Those are kind of nice things to do when you're first starting to get into channels like gear reviews where you're not really paying for the product. You're kind of building gear, like building lights. Like I got some of these RGB lights that were kind of gifted from a couple companies. Those are kind of nice to have. So that, it's just like $100 you didn't have to spend or something.
Right. That's
But
awesome.
ultimately, it gets to a point where I'm like, I don't really want to pay for products ahead of time if they're going to send me something.
Right.
I don't mind doing products for free at this point. It's I don't have a gigantic channel with a million subscribers, so I'm not expected to be being paid by a lot of companies. But if they're going to give you something that's like like a small rig cage for my new camera, that's an expensive product that I would like to buy, but now I got it for free, and all I had to do was a video on it, and um, they still say do your honest review, and since you're not getting paid, you don't really have to worry about ripping the product if it's not good, which is kind of nice, I guess.
Yep.
Ultimately, you don't want to like end a relationship with a company by destroying a product online, but if it's not good, it's something you want to be honest about as a tech reviewer. That's just kind of the nature of what
Ha-
your channel is. So
Have you had any situations like that where you get a product and you're excited about it, you want to make a review, but then you just don't like it?
yeah, I did a couple Amazon things that got sent to me. I just didn't like it, didn't care to do a video, and I just returned it and didn't worry about asking for money back or anything like that. So,
Yep.
because that's the thing is, if you buy it up front on Amazon, you could just return it and it's done. You don't need to worry about it. So, if it's something that I just don't feel like I don't want to like people who follow my channel, I don't want to like sell them on a product that's a piece of crap.
Right.
If I think it's good, I'll let I'll say this is what this thing is, and this is why you should get it, or this is why you shouldn't get it, and then let them kind of make up their own minds on it. So, but yeah, if it's just a crappy item, I'm not going to bother mentioning it. So,
Well, I got to kind of switch up gears here. My
mhm.
channel is kind of focused on drones, or I own a drone company on the side, and I see a lot of great drone uh, videography from you in Minneapolis. Can you walk us through the process of getting authorization flying in a big city like Minneapolis?
Well, the nice thing about being a channel that was not monetized is that I
Okay.
didn't really worry about that.
Yep.
So I wasn't flying commercially, so I just went into AirMap and found different areas that were legal for as a hobbyist or something, and then kind of just I don't know. You always feel like you're doing something wrong when you're flying drones. For me, like I'm always nervous, and you get your drone up, and then you're looking around you like to see who's looking at you, and you always feel like someone's going to come up to you and tell you you gotta you're going to be arrested or something, and that's just how I feel always. That's probably not the case for a lot of people, but
That's
um,
exactly how I feel, and I'm glad
yeah.
someone else brought it up. I'm Part 107 certified and everything, and even when I get Lance authorizations and everything, I still have that feeling every time I take off. So uh, I couldn't imagine. I fly mostly in rural North Dakota,
Mhm.
but that's why I saw your videos like flying over Target Field and stuff, and I was like, oh man, this would be next level terrifying, to take a
So now
drone.
that would not normally be legal, but that video you're talking about, it was I did a video for our other channel that was kind of like a black and white
Yep.
sappy music.
Yes. Yep.
Um, I basically filmed Minneapolis completely dead with no people in it. Some of those shots were a little manipulated, but flying over target field normally is not like allowed, especially
Right.
if there's games or anything for
Right.
sure. But the air map at that time didn't have any restrictions on it, so I was just I'm going to do it. I don't care. And it's just kind of I found it, I had to drive around Minneapolis for a while to find a good spot to like view that, because a lot of times you're just in like such obstructions with Minneapolis because all the buildings. And there was one spot over I found that was kind of like higher up and you could see everything. There was no buildings in the way, but it was a little bit of ways from the stadium. So I was like, I got to use a quarter of the battery to get there and at least a quarter to get back. So I got to make this quick. So when you do those kind of shots, it's like you do your one pass that you want to do, you get kind of turn the drone quick, do like a sideways swipe and get the city skyline, and then turn around the other way, do like a down angle shot, and then just come back. So you just get like 5 shots all in one kind of movement. And so that's also another way to be like just quick about it. But that I have like a
Yep.
Mavic Air, so my battery
Yep.
is like 14 minutes, and when you got to take 4 minutes to get to the stadium because you're like a half a mile away from it, it's kind of nerve wracking. Like I got to get this quick. Plus, if the thing gets interference and goes down, I'm probably going to lose the drone at this point because it's a little bit of ways for me, especially on those streets where you have to kind of wind around to get back to over to the stadium because it's all freeway overpasses and stuff like that. But yeah, it's I don't know. There's always that feeling like some people get really shy, like vlogging in front of people, myself
Right.
included. But like drones are the exact same way to me, where you put it up and you're just like, if anyone's looking at you, you're like, oh, I better bring it down. I'm going to get in trouble. And we
Yep.
actually almost got in trouble once in San Francisco, where we were definitely flying in a no-fly zone. That was because of the stadium had a game going in that day, but the stadium was like a mile away. I don't know why it was affecting this area, but I like put it up. I did this loop around this kind of, what was it, the San Francisco pier building, ferry building or something.
Okay.
And so I'm flying here. I'm sitting on this bench being real incognito, and I kind of like look over and I see this like cop car driving right behind me on the pier. And I was just like, oh crap, here it comes. Like I got to get this thing down. And I'm like trying to get the thing to land really fast. I see it, I get it close. I just like reach up and grab it, and I just shred my fingers because I didn't grab it right. It just kind of panicked basically. Grabbed it, and turned it upside down, put it in my bag, and as the cops driving behind me, and it was, he eventually just drove by and didn't care. But I was just like, it was like an unmarked black cop car, and I was just like, crap, I'm screwed. And I've heard horror stories in California where they like take the drone, they fine you,
Oh man.
and then here I'm like bleeding all over the place because I like reached up and propellers totally hit me, and panicking and bleeding, and just kind of seemed like a not a good thing to have happen.
That sounds
So
terrible. So is it
yeah,
safe to say you were not? It sounds like you're a little bit of a drone rebel. So I'm a big Twins fan. You were
mhm.
not the person behind landing the drone on the field during a game.
No, I didn't know it
Okay.
landed. I
Well,
heard that
or
they
it was
had one like
getting
fly
close.
overhead.
They were having it flying overhead and stuff, and I was watching
Wow.
the game thinking, "Oh no,
Yeah,
what is happening?"
I think that was right when baseball kind of came back. I
It,
remember hearing
yep,
about that for sure.
yep,
No,
yeah.
that was definitely not me. I
Well,
flew
good.
for that one video, but
That's good. Um, I also really like your photography. And is that something that you've done longer than video? I just checked out your Instagram for the first time. I've been a follower on YouTube for quite a while now. Just followed you on Instagram. And for those of you listening, you should definitely go check it out because there's product photography, there's some EDC stuff, a little bit of everything. How
mhm.
long have you been doing photography?
Like not at all.
Oh, really?
Pretty much. I mean, like if you understand videography, you're really gonna nail like composition. And if you really understand your camera, you're gonna be getting what you kind of get what your shutter speed and aperture and everything does. Photography is a little different because all three of those, like for video, I leave my shutter at 150, and pretty much aperture is controlling what you want your look to be, and then your ISO is going to be kind of like the lighting. But for photography, it's kind of like a mix of all three to get different looks. And like if you want everything in focus, then obviously raising your aperture. But um, it's kind of different. I'm still learning on my own here as well, but I know sometimes I just went out and we did a street photography shoot in New Orleans, and it kind of just clicked one day where you kind of just instinctively knew which one to change and which one to leave, if that makes
Yep.
sense. For street photography, you're always like walking, so having like a high shutter speed is probably better because if you're like moving around walking, you want, even if your camera moves and you're taking a picture, you want that to like still be sharp and not blurred. So I think I'm running always like 200 or more shutter
Okay.
speed when you're walking. If you stop, like sometimes 120 shutter speed, something like that. But then the rest of it's just kind of controlling your ISO and your aperture and deciding which one you want to change to affect lighting and the look of, like your bokeh and stuff like that. So, but definitely I'm still a noob with photography and
Well,
learning myself.
I am as well, but it's a lot of fun, isn't it? I
Hmm.
mean, have you ever went out and just shot a night sky? I mean, that's something
Yep.
I really enjoy doing. I mean, I don't feel like cameras should be able to get these great pictures of the night sky, but it's amazing what they can do and what they can see. Because
Yeah.
if you're sitting out there taking photos, a lot of times it's seeing a lot more than what the human eye can see.
Hmm. Well, that's for sure. I mean, like, I have the A6400, and I feel like with that Sigma 16, the first time I turned that thing on, even at like 6400 ISO, you look at it and you're like, I could see better out of my camera right now
It,
than my eyes.
it's unreal.
Definitely,
That's the
it gets
exact
noise when you bring in the video in, so it's not like my limit on this camera is 6400 or yeah 6400 ISO. But like that A7S III that I just bought, that thing is just like crazy in low light. And I haven't done a ton of photography with it, but when I first got it, we went up to North Shore and we went to this, like, we stayed in these cabins and we got there super late. And there was like no lights on behind the cabins, and we were right on the edge of the lake, Lake Superior. So I walked outside and it was just like I just turned it to like a 2 second shutter speed and just hit the trigger on it, and then once it popped in, I was like, holy cow! Like you can't see anything in with 'cause it was so dark. It was so dark. There was like no moon that night, but that camera just like lit up the sky and you could see everything. I could see like across the lake almost in Wisconsin with some of the lights that were showing up on the screen. So
And see,
it's
that's the big knock on that camera, isn't it? The photography.
I mean, if,
I,
if
I
you're
mean,
not
I
going to
just,
make like a
yeah,
billboard or print
yep.
something gigantic, it's like 12 megapixels is more than enough for anything that you can do.
Mm-hmm.
And I know everyone always says, "Oh, if you're just doing social media and Instagram," but it's so much more than that. Like 12 megapixels is still a lot. I mean, if you're printing like a 5 foot wide picture, it's going to be a little bit pixelated, but um, honestly, like to me, that I haven't noticed any difference really. I've printed a bunch of stuff, like 16 by 36 stuff, and it's still sharp as can be. And you never tell to me. So
And you think that the pictures from that are better than the Sony A6400?
I wouldn't necessarily say better. I mean,
Okay.
like when I did that shoot in New Orleans, I was using that Sigma 2470, which is like a really sharp lens. Highly recommend that if you're a photographer with that APS-C camera. It's a tank and it's very unbalanced on your camera, but it takes some just insanely good photos with that lens. But honestly, I feel like the lens does more than the camera. Really, I mean, if you have a really nice lens will look good on 6 megapixels. So as long as you're not printing something gigantic, it's not going to show.
Little side note here. Do you have any experience with the Tamron 150 to 500 for the APS-C?
I have like 5 minutes experience with any Tamron lens, and that was
Okay.
the 28 to 70. When we went down to Florida, we did a video with Paul where he compared the Sigma 24 to 70 and the 28 to 70 Tamron. Uh, we did a fun video at like where we went to Disney and did
Okay.
like a lens review at Disney. That's something also, if you guys watch my channel, like I like doing reviews in weird places sometimes. Like I did a lens review on the beach in Mexico, which is like the last place you would expect to do a lens review, and like a talking head part on the beach. I just kind of like being in different environments, not always being in like a studio environment. I think it's just kind of more fun as a channel for myself, anyways, to do stuff like that. But
Do you find that that adds some difficulty to it? Because I'm
oh,
assuming when you
for
bring out the
sure,
camera, people are coming around you trying to get in and making noises and stuff like that.
it kind of depends where you are. I mean, like when I was like walking up and down like the shoreline at the beach, like everyone on the beach is staring at me, and you can feel that. You can just feel that,
Yep.
like you got the sun burning on one side and you got the people burning on the other side. That was kind of awkward. Plus, I knew that part of me is kind of like I have no idea how loud the water is going to sound. Because I'm using a mic like the NTG video mic, and I know it picks up really well what's in front of it. So I'm trying to kind of keep the camera turned away from the water a little bit. But and then there's other places like when you go to Disney, so many people just staring at you. But like in places like that, I just don't care because like everybody's got their camera out, and like I think everybody just expects you. Like when you're carrying around a camera, they're like, "Oh, he's doing a video on Disney."
Yep.
They're not like wondering what you're doing.
Not a
Versus like when
camera
you're
review.
yeah, when you're like walking down in random places pointing a huge camera at yourself, people are just kind of curious, like, "Oh, what's going on here? This is kind of fun." They don't really, they're not like judging you. They just are always like curious to see what's going on. But it's always kind of what's nerve wracking about like vlogging in public is just that kind of like you don't know what they're thinking, and that you just like think they're thinking the worst things about you, but really I think they're just curious to see what you're doing. So,
I think the first
but
thing I think of when I see someone with the camera is, oh, I wonder if they're on YouTube. I'd like to
mhm.
subscribe to their channel, that type of deal. But
Yeah, well, that's the funny thing about like Disney. Every 2 seconds, they're like, "Oh, you guys YouTubers?" And you're like, "Yep, yep, yep." And like this year, I finally was smart enough to bring cards with me, which is something like I never have had in the past. But like when we did a Disney, my old channel video or travel channel video, we did some like Disney stuff right when Rise of the Resistance came out, and like everyone was asking us for like our channel name, and at that point we were so new that I was like, "Oh, you can search this, this, and this, and this. You might find us, you might not." And it would have been one of those growing experiences. I was like doing Disney stuff for people who want to watch Disney content to have cards back then, but I didn't do that. So
that's a
we
wonderful
gave out
idea.
cards. Me and Paul gave out cards this time, but I think it's going to be a little weird because I think people are going to expect Disney content and they're going to see camera content instead. But
Well,
it was
I
beside
bet
the point.
a lot of people would subscribe just to say, hey, I met this person. I saw him
Yeah,
out in
well, I mean,
public
you never know what
filming.
they're into, and that's the thing. If they don't subscribe, it's no big deal.
Right.
If
So,
if they like camera stuff, maybe they'll subscribe and they'll be like, "Hey, I remember that time I met you at Disney." And
yeah, right.
um, that's sometimes like I was in a band for like 10 years, still am, I guess, kind of. We're haven't done much, but we gave a kid once who saw us. We were at like a gas station in the middle of nowhere, no idea where this was at this point, but the guy was like, "Oh, you guys in a band?" We're like, "Yeah," and we gave him a CD. And then like years later, we found out this guy's like driving up from like Chicago or something to come see our shows when we were local, and he's like a huge fan. He's like, "Hey, remember that time you gave me a CD, and that's how I found your band?" And so it's like having stuff like that always is kind of fun because you never know what it's going to come with it. So
That's awesome. Very cool story. Have you had any good feedback with your cards? I mean, have you seen your numbers growing
it's really hard to
substantially?
tell. I mean,
Right.
it's like when your channel kind of starts taking off, it just um, you just wake up every morning and you have 10 or 15 more subscribers, or at least where I'm at now. So it's hard to tell where that's coming from. I know most of my stuff comes from like ZV1 content at this point
Okay.
in my
Yep.
channel,
Yep.
which is kind of fun. It's a different select group of people who are subscribing to the channel. Like when I first started the channel, I thought people like me were going to be the only ones watching my channel. Because I watch stuff like Matty Apoya and McKinnon and all those guys, and I just kind of figured that's who my niche is to that. But then when like that ZV1 stuff got really popular, I started noticing like makeup channels and lifestyle channels and like a lot of women channels started watching my stuff and subscribing, which was not what I was like expecting. And it's cool. And I understand why. It's, they're
Hmm.
probably bought the camera and they want to know how to use it. And, you're creating a channel that's giving out content that's good for that kind of stuff. So, but it's just kind of, it's surprising to see where your subscribers are coming from. And I always sometimes will see like when you get the notifications of when someone subscribed to you. Sometimes I'll peek to see what kind of channel they have, if they have a channel. Most of the time, it's people who are just have a Gmail and are just following you. But it's fun to see what other channels that subscribe to you. So
Right. So when you get that feedback, do you find yourself making videos towards those groups of people?
I try to, yeah. I mean, like if like a big chunk of my subscriber base right now, let's say is ZV1 stuff. If I stop making ZV1 stuff, I don't know how well my channel continues to grow after that,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to not like do other stuff. So it's like I try to throw ZV1 content in this point, like every couple videos, maybe every 3 videos or something, just so that you're still growing with it and not leaving, like a big subscriber base behind. Same thing what I'm trying to do with the APS-C stuff still,
Right.
because many channels that actually do APS-C content, which is weird because I haven't actually done a lot myself either. I've done a couple lenses, but um, it's something where, for me, it's just like I've had this camera for 2 years and now I'm on to full frame, so it's easy to want to like forget about it. But as far as like YouTube, more people are probably interested in like the A6400 or the ZV1 because they're watching YouTube to understand cameras and figure out how to do this. Maybe they're about to start a channel, and then like people who are buying A7S3s, they're not spending 4 grand on a camera if they don't know what they're doing. So it's like they don't necessarily watch people who are buying that camera aren't necessarily watching content for that
Right.
camera. Maybe they're making it, but so like it's kind of sad to see some YouTubers like go from all these what made their channels big and then go to like full frame stuff and like never go back and talk about the APS-C or point and shoot stuff because that's kind of how they got their channel big. And that's kind of I feel like a lot of the people out there watching these videos are wanting that content. So
And I'm
I'm
one of
trying to
them.
throw in a little bit of everything at this point. So
Yep, I'm definitely one of those people looking for the APS-C stuff because just starting out, I like the cost of these cameras.
mhm.
Being that you jumped into a full frame now, what's the biggest difference?
On the A7S3, I mean,
Right. I mean, what's something you've got now that you couldn't live without?
couldn't live without. I feel like you could do quite a bit of stuff on something like the A6400. Uh, to me, coming from that camera, the biggest change is the stabilization.
Right.
And I know you can get like an A6600, so that's still like an option in a APS-C line. But the ability, like the A6400 is a or sorry, the A7S3 is a camera that I feel like you don't get until you need to get it, or like really want to get it. But it's going to give you like better dynamic range. That's probably the first most like biggest jump in difference between those two cameras. And that's the ability to be in kind of darker situations, but have like say like a bright window behind you. That camera you can kind of squish, like retain all the highlights that are in the window and the shadow part of like your scene without kind of I don't know like the A6400. I feel like you expose for your scene, but then your window is just completely white and blown out
Right.
because the dynamic range isn't that great on that. But some of the outdoor stuff I've had in the A6400, I get back and I would not be super happy with my footage. I was either overexposed and it's not as forgiving if that makes sense.
Yeah, it
Versus like
definitely does.
the A7S3, I feel like there's a little bit more forgiveness in having the wrong exposure. I mean, if you're overexposed, you're overexposed, so that's going to happen. But like when you're shooting an S-Log 3, you can you're supposed to overexpose, like to 1.7 over, but then you have more ability and flexibility in post with a camera like that with its 10-bit colors to kind of fix a lot of different things that kind of make your shot maybe not great. Versus the A6400, when you get it back, that's kind of what you get, unless
Right.
you're shooting in log profiles, which on that camera I never really ever did. Um, Log profiles on the A6400 were always just like the S-Log 2 was just a little too complicated to color correct for me. And when you got it right, then you'd start introducing some weird artifacts and noise. And there's some fixes I've seen, like Donna did a video I think that showed how to
Right.
fix that by over saturating something. And but for me, like the A6400 is a great camera just to plug in and standard profile, or even like I think profile one is just like it's basically standard profile, but it's like slightly less saturated. But it's a great camera to just to put a nice lens on and shoot good content. And I
Right.
think like they put out that new Sony what is it, Sony ZV-E10.
Yep.
Um, I haven't really experienced it, so I don't really want to talk too much about it. But I think like cameras like the A6400 are still a better option at this point.
Yeah,
because
you know,
it
I've
seems like
I've really liked the A6400. I can't think of
mhm,
really anything that I've run into that I don't like. I mean, it's been
mhm,
good for me. I really love that 16 millimeters Sigma lens. Uh,
mhm.
I don't know if you can use that on a full frame. Maybe you can.
That's my next video actually.
Really? Okay. Well, I'll be
Yeah, I was actually
watching.
outside last night. I actually went outside shooting at nighttime. I was trying to do some stuff, but it was cloudy and it started raining on me. But yeah, if you put on the Sigma crop sensors, if you put them on like an A7 III, it'll automatically switch it to Super 35,
Okay.
which would put it to like a 24 millimeter lens, which is what it
Okay.
equivalent is on a crop body, anyways.
Right. Yep. Yep.
But if you put this on a A7S III, that camera can't do that because they would crop the 12 megapixels down to 6 megapixels,
Okay.
and it would look terrible.
Yep.
But I found out after putting this lens on the A7S III, if you just put it in active stabilization, it crops in like 10%, and it almost completely gets rid of any vignetting. And then in post, you can just push it in like another 8%, and you'll have like a 20 millimeter lens, but it's still makes it so you can still use this lens on a, like if you already owned it or something,
Yep.
you could still
Right.
use it on an A7S III. But yeah, I mean, all these crop body camera lenses, for the most part, on most of the full frames, you can put right on, and it switches to Super 35 and it makes it usable. So
Well, that's good to know
Sigma
because
16 is a great lens too. It's a super sharp.
yeah, and very affordable for
Yeah.
someone just starting out. And
Hmm.
when I say affordable, you know, when you think of spending that much for a lens, you know, it, when you look at the world of lenses, it is affordable.
Oh
But
yeah, $400 lens.
right,
When I
yep,
was first saving, I was first saving up for camera stuff. I remember being like, "Oh, $400 is a lot,"
right,
and now you're looking at camera lenses being like, $1,000 is actually a pretty good deal for a Sigma 24 when the Sony's 2200. And so it's just like a lot of the full frame lenses are not cheap. So that's one huge advantage of these like crop body cameras is that lenses are all really pretty affordable for this camera. Or if you want to buy full frame, you can put full frame lenses on this and still use those later if you switch to full frame. So
and I guess another one of the biggest features I like is the no record limit. And I know a
yeah,
lot
yep,
of the older cameras have that. I know maybe the newer ones don't, but that's one of the features I
yeah.
really liked about this.
Some of the new ones. Well, I think the 6400 was the first to have that on the APSC line, but yeah, they're good cameras, and it's a 6K sensor that down reses to 4K, so it's like super sharp. I
Right.
actually use my 6400 most of the time for my talking head studio stuff because I just kind of like how it looks in here. When you're not moving around, you're not worrying about stabilization. I have the right lens for it, and
Yep.
it just gives me a good look. And so I've been tending to use this one a lot inside the studio, and the other one when I'm walking around and going outside and stuff like that. So,
Oh, it's
but
got to be nice to have your options like that. You can sit down in your studio cameras. It sounds like it's already set up, which would be very nice.
yeah, I mean, for most part, it can be. I
Yeah.
feel like I unset up everything every time I redo anything. So for a while, I was using my main desk and like pulling it all the way back in my room, and
Oh
then like
man.
putting the computer up on a shelf. And that just got to be a point where I'm like, it takes like 40 minutes to set up. It takes 40 minutes to clean up. So then I just bought like a secondary table and just do it back in my room, and so I can do editing and then also filming at different times and
Well, I'm
whatnot.
just
But
crammed into a little corner of my basement, so that sounds good.
mhm. Yeah, I mean, I'm in a pretty small room in my studio, and sometimes it's all about the right lens that you're using to make things look better or bigger. And
Hmm.
I'm probably going to switch up this look at some point here. I have a backdrop that I bought a while ago. I just haven't put up yet, and
Oh,
probably going to
cool.
switch up some colors in here and what stuff. So I don't know.
Do you get
Pretty soon.
nervous when you do that? Like, I've been thinking about that too. Like, do you think people recognize you for your backdrop, and when you change, are you worried about them? Ah, no, I don't like that now, and
I mean, I think to a point that might be true, but you'd have to have a pretty cool backdrop. I've seen
right,
some creators where like you're so used to their one, and then when they do change it, you're like, that's weird. But I mean, it's to me, it's not really terrible. Like I
hmm,
like moving around. I don't like being in one spot a lot, and
right,
um, it's nice having like if you use certain kind of backdrop paper, you can just put different lights on it and change the background colors. And I tend to keep everything the same in here, but I don't know. I want to make my room have like four different angles. I just haven't. got around to actually doing that, because I'm just, when you're trying to do a video every week, you're just so busy doing that that you don't have time to like take everything out of your room and redo everything and
Right.
bring everything
So
back. And
on most of your talking head stuff, do you have at least two cameras going, or is it just one that you're usually
it
talking
depends
to?
on what I'm doing. Like if I'm doing shots that I'm not like really showing the gear a lot, then I'm just generally doing one camera and then film like B rolls for shots that you want. If I'm doing like unboxing y kind of stuff or like really hands on stuff, I'll usually put an overhead camera above me. And then I just have like a boom arm normally that goes over me where it holds my microphone. And
Okay.
like the ZV-1 is a perfect camera for that because it weighs nothing. And then it has that flip screen so you can kind of look up and see what you're doing. That's always like what I use for my overhead camera. Um, I don't like doing it if I don't have to, because editing in post, it's not complicated, but it's more work, if that makes
Right.
sense.
Yep, it is.
Um, yeah, I mean, you have to go to like the multicam and Final Cut and then just like sit and watch a video. I try to edit it, the whole thing, and then you go through and you just click the frame that you want over and over, and it's just, it's more work, and it does look better if you're needing that part of your content for your video. But just to do it all the time seems kind of weird to me, unless you're really showing a product a lot. I
Right.
personally like talking about it, and then when I edit, a lot of times I'll edit in. After I edit, I'll kind of keynote like, I need a B-roll shot of this, I need a shot of this, and then I'll go backwards and kind of shoot different B-roll spots of those products that I kind of have in mind, like I wrote down. Or sometimes I'll just do that right away, and I just kind of instinctively know I'll use this for this part. And but I think it sometimes works better when you get everything edited. Then you can write notes down like, what else do I need to add to it,
Right.
and
So,
then go
uh,
film it.
and a lot of people probably don't realize. So, for maybe if you're doing like a 3 minute video, how many minutes of video are you actually shooting to break down to that 3 minute video?
I mean, how many times do you want to film the video too? I mean,
Yep. Right.
I've done it so many times. Like my last video with the Sigma 16, I'm on my third time recording that video,
Mm-hmm.
because sometimes you get in there, you put it in you upload everything, you get everything converted. I got all my proxies in there because that A7S3 takes some serious computer power to run otherwise. Get everything edited, and you're just like, I hate this video. I'm gonna redo it. And then I got to the point again the other day where I was like, okay, I'm gonna do this as a talking head in the studio, and then just go out and film the parts that I need. Because I tried doing all of it out and about last time, and I wasn't happy with it. So I mean, a 3 minute video could easily be like you filmed it 3 times, and it could be 40 minutes of footage and 20 minutes of B-roll or something. But it's better to have way too much stuff and just not use it than not have enough and make, you could always make your video better with some additional things. So, and
That's
I've had to
true.
shortcut videos before where you're like, I need this filmed and done by tomorrow. I got to have it uploaded. So, sometimes you just have to cut corners and film what you have and edit what you have and just go with it. But
So I know some people or a lot of people do this differently. When you're done with a video and editing for that video, do you keep all that footage, or once you hit send to YouTube, do you just delete everything?
it depends on the video. If it's anything that's like sponsored content or brand stuff, then you want to keep it, because if for some reason it gets like it doesn't upload properly on YouTube, or somehow it gets like maybe you get a copyright claim somehow for some reason, if it ever gets taken down, or if the company sees your video after you post and say, hey, this is wrong, like you want to have at least like the library. And sometimes I have like a big 14 terabyte hard drive that's old school hard drive, so it's slow, but I can take that drive, that library, and put it on there at nighttime and just let it, take 8 hours to move it from one computer to the hard drive. But it's nice to keep those in case you do need them, or if it's like a client work, like obviously you would keep that. But most of the videos, once I've posted it, I'll save the 4K file into a
Yep.
folder that's just all my finals, and drag that thing to the trash can and hit delete.
Have you ever had a mistake where you didn't get it done, you accidentally deleted it, had to start all over?
Not yet. I've
Good.
had a couple where I forgot to save the video, I think. And then it's just kind of like, well, whatever. At this point, it's my first couple videos or something. If I don't have that, whatever, it's not a big deal.
Yep.
Probably be better if it goes away anyways, some of your first videos. But no, I mean,
Yeah,
I
that
just I once it's posted and then once it's in 4K, because that's the other thing. Sometimes you upload to YouTube and it like I've had a couple times now where it's like 3 days later, you're like, this thing's still in HD. It's not in 4K and it's supposed to upload in 4K. And then I've had to do it where I've just like deleted the YouTube part and just re-uploaded it, and then all of a sudden it works and it goes to 4K. So sometimes you have problems with uploading and you just have to keep everything until it's like it's on YouTube and you probably won't need it again. And if you have some really awesome B-roll and you like want to keep that stuff, I usually put that into like a hard drive and just keep it as backup. But most of the time, if it's something cool, you can always just go reference your video and cut it out of one of your old videos
hmm
and
So is that something you do
save a
quite a
lot of
bit?
space.
Uh,
Not really.
reference back old videos and use some of the clips from them, or?
I probably should on
Hmm.
some stuff, but I just like I don't know if I have a new video and I'm talking about something that I did before, or like I'm re-showing off a thing that I could use old footage for. I just sometimes will just film new stuff anyways and keep things fresh.
Awesome.
But yeah,
Well,
it all depends, I guess. Really, like I did a couple references of a music video I shot on my one of my gimbal videos, and it was nice that I had all that file footage because then I was able to use it. So
yeah, sometimes that stuff comes in handy. Uh, Before I let you go, I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but at the end of each interview, that when I have guests on, I usually ask about 10 questions, lightning round, maybe
mhm.
get to know a little bit more about the guest. So let's get
Do we
started with that.
did we ever get the Dunna Lighten round button bar?
We never got the
We
Dunna
never got it.
lightning bar. That would be great if I could reach out to him and get that. That would be awesome. Maybe we need a Kyle Watts lightning round button
Oh, I
bar.
don't.
That's something I've been talking to my wife about too. I need to upgrade my lightning bar or just sound effects on my Rodecaster
Mhm.
Pro because with all
The
this
buttons are
stuff
there. They're
going
fun,
on,
you know.
the buttons are here and I never use them. I mean, they're just sitting there waiting to be used and I don't use them enough. And I love radio stations like KFan out of Minneapolis that constantly uses their button bars. I mean, that really adds a lot to the show, in my opinion. Are you a
It can get
KFan
overdone, but
fan?
was that?
I say, are you a KFan fan?
Oh yeah, I
Yep.
listen to that every day to work.
Yep, I do as well.
Yeah,
All
if you
right.
don't, you can listen to it on our iHeartRadio, right?
I do. Yep, I absolutely do. All right. First
That's so good.
question. What is your favorite place to eat in Minneapolis?
Ooh, Minneapolis. That is a tough one. I'm really been a big fan of it's not in Minneapolis, but it's in the area. It's called Whiskey Inferno.
Okay.
It's owned by that chain that does like Butcher and Bar and burgers
Okay.
and bottles and stuff like that. But they have like half price steaks after 9 o'clock. So it's like
Wow.
the them you can afford like a really expensive steak in my opinion. But their place is just awesome.
See, I was disappointed. I'm in Minneapolis quite often, actually. This year is the first year I'm a Flex Twin season ticket holder, which I was really excited about. But our favorite place to go, believe it or not, was Fuddruckers on
Hmm.
France Avenue. And that recently closed down. And we had three places we went. Fuddruckers, we went to Devani's, and we went to Cosetta's in St. Paul. And
Mhm.
those were the three must have go to places. But now we're down to Devani's and Cosetta's,
Yeah.
and we're looking for more places to go out and eat. So,
Well, I mean, obviously, like Pizza Luce is a good staple for something like that too. But
okay.
I don't know if
I,
the downtown one's open either right now.
oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's,
Downtown Minneapolis, all these restaurants are suffering because people aren't
mm-hmm.
working in buildings right now, and they're working from home. So all these restaurants are kind of suffering in that area.
Yep.
Pretty much everything is suffering in that area at this point.
Well, hopefully in the future, Fuddruckers comes back into business. I don't know if that's part of the plan or what, but I
Hmm.
know that was something we always look forward to when we were going to Minneapolis. All right. Question number 2. Who are some of your favorite YouTubers to watch when you're looking for advice?
For advice,
And that could be
I
on
mean,
filmmaking or anything, you know.
yeah, I mean, like it's pretty easy to want to watch people like Matty Apoya and I mean, I watch McKinnon every now and then. some of his stuff is just kind of a little over the top sometimes. But I know a lot of YouTubers that are just kind of fun to watch and feel relatable. And I know like Justin or Dunna is one of those YouTubers that just kind of always feels relatable,
Right.
comments on everything back. You can write a message to him on Instagram, he'll be writing you back. He's helped me on a few things in the past too, with just kind of personally. But yeah, there's a lot of channels like that. I mean, some of my favorite YouTubers are like Kara and Nate. They have like a travel channel. Um,
Okay.
like Justin Scard, who does like a lot of Disney content and like
Hmm.
Route 66 stuff, just because they're so fun to watch. But as far as like gear channels, I mean, it changes a lot too. So I don't know if people can make their videos entertaining, like Josh Yo, where it's not just about the gear, but they like hide the gear review in the like in their film. That's like super fun to watch, and it's like inspiring, and that's kind of what like it's made me want to do gear reviews that aren't just sitting at a desk, and like incorporate them into storylines if you can. And like Josh is in his own world with that. But I don't know if you ever watched Make Art Now.
I have watched
Yeah.
actually quite a few videos. I mean, it seems like all these people, that was a fun answer for me because I've actually had Done and Did It on this show. So if you guys haven't heard that episode, go back and listen to my interview with him. Great guy, awesome YouTube channel. So that was kind of a fun answer for me to have one of the people I've actually had on. Number three, and I know you have a travel channel. So what would be your dream travel destination?
God, it's so hard to say one place because it's just fun to constantly move. I really enjoyed Italy. I've been there a couple times. Last time we went to Venice, and that felt kind of like a theme park to me, but it was still fun. But like going from north to south Italy along the coastline, like the west coast, the French Riviera side, was just like some of the most gorgeous sights I've ever seen. So I would say that's probably on my list of like where I want to go next again. But I mean, like, I've been all over Europe, and I've been pretty much all over the entire country here, but two states. I have a Hawaii and Alaska to go to still, so
Oh wow, okay.
both of those would be really cool to add to that, I guess, since I haven't been there.
Well,
So
all
yeah,
right. Yeah, all of them sound very amazing. I still haven't left the United States, believe it or not. So I have to get out there and
yeah,
start traveling a little more
I
difficult now too,
yeah.
with
My
COVID and
go-to though
stuff.
lately has been like Puerto Vallarta,
Okay.
and that's one where it's just like I almost don't care if I'm bringing cameras or anything. Like we still do, but it's just such an awesome place to go and just spend a week and not care about anything.
Wow, nice.
Sit by the pool and just drink.
Yeah,
Just,
I'll have to
you
keep
know,
that one in
frozen
mind if I.
margaritas and stuff like that. Yeah, that's just it's just such a fun city. It's like everyone there is very friendly, and it's very tourist friendly, and it's not really like a lot of the other places in Mexico. Even it's just kind of a fun, relaxing vacations though.
Awesome. All right. What is your favorite social media platform to create on? I think we know the answer to this, but
I like YouTube.
okay.
I YouTube is awesome network community. You can kind of do whatever you want to do, and that's the fun part.
All right. So here's the follow up question. What is your least favorite social media platform to create on that you're currently on?
Probably TikTok. I have like three
Okay.
TikToks. They make no sense to me. I don't like YouTube. It's like you put something into something, you have the right titles and keywords. You kind of generally know what your video is going to do or how it's going to be searched, or like down the road how it's going to probably perform to a point. Obviously, TikTok, it's like I put up a few videos that seemed like they were going to be great. It got nothing. And then I put up like a video of me just panning a shot in Mexico, and it's got, 1,000 views the next 10 minutes later. So like I don't understand how you trigger any kind of algorithm on there. And it seems like someone on YouTube might have 1,000 subscribers and they have 8 million on TikTok. So
Yeah.
it's baffling to me.
It seems like the analytics are definitely a lot different for
Hmm.
a platform like TikTok.
And it's fun. Like I like zombieing into TikTok where you just kind of keep scrolling. And next thing you know, it's been 3 hours. And you're like, I gotta go do something. I gotta go film a video or something.
Yep.
But it's just like I'm not really into short content. I don't really like shorts either on
On
YouTube.
YouTube? Yep.
I think it's I don't know, like, I enjoy longer content, and I feel like all these platforms right now are really putting everything aside to try to, like, push forward their short content stuff, and I think that's kinda like, I like that Instagram is Instagram for photos and, now they're trying to do video and TikTok is TikTok, but, like, I don't like YouTube thinking they are gonna become TikTok because I don't want it to be. It's let
Yeah.
TikTok be TikTok and let YouTube be YouTube.
Yep. I personally prefer the longer length videos as well. All
But,
right. If you
yeah,
could
I mean, it's
collaborate.
it's something when they first put it out, you have to kinda do to
Right.
anytime YouTube puts out a new product, you ride the wave and usually you get success from it. A lot of people aren't, but some people are, and it's just kinda I don't know, I like the idea of not promoting short content because it's going to phase out long content at some point, and I don't want that to happen either, so
Yeah, I wouldn't like that either. And I think, I don't know if you saw that video that Peter McKinnon put out on just where he did a full cinematic video on a coffee
mhm.
machine, and then he did a quick little cell phone video. And he was talking about that there really wasn't much difference in analytics. And so,
Yeah, well,
why are
so
you
some of
putting
that's
the extra?
relatability though, because I think a lot of
Right.
people who like, TikTok is a platform for cell phones.
Yep.
Like, you shoot everything on your cell phone. So, like, a lot of these people will downplay their videos to make them look kinda worse to be more relatable, and Mr. Beast does that with his stuff,
Yep.
even on YouTube. Like, he'll film everything 1080 and not really care if it looks great because it's more relatable. But then there's people like McKinnon who are like, I originally watched his channel because of his, using 10K red cameras on YouTube. Like, who does that? Like,
Right. Yep.
and that's something where you just like, oh, you get blown away. Like, I got to watch this guy's channel. This is crazy. And but on a platform like TikTok, that doesn't like thrive because it looks corporate. It looks like a ad.
Right.
So it's like on TikTok, you want something to look more cell phone footage because that's just more relatable to that platform and doesn't look
And
like an ad. Like,
I wonder, like he was talking about in the video too, I wonder if companies will realize this for like car commercials and stuff like that. Will they go to a more relatable platform in the future? I don't know.
that's
Time will
yeah,
tell,
that's a good
but
point with car commercials. I know a lot of commercials are hidden in TikTok. Like, you don't even know you're on a commercial until you're halfway through the video.
right,
But yeah, like car commercials and stuff that are way more like movie produced looking.
right.
That's a good point. I never even thought of that, but
All
it's
right.
possible. I guess there might be some like inside of the car Tesla stuff where someone's shooting what the speakers do or something. I could see
Exactly.
stuff like
Yep.
that.
I think that could be beneficial for those big companies. If you could collaborate with anyone on YouTube, who would it be?
Josh Yo, make art
All
now
right.
for sure.
Yep.
Just because like just seeing how that guy works and how he thinks is so different. Like he takes his everything he does from like a film standpoint and like the logistics and just like seeing him do what he does is just so different and I don't know refreshing. Um, I was actually gonna do one of his like LUT videos at one point because I did a music video using his LUTs and him and Potato Jet sent me a video once on Instagram talking about how my video was one of the better ones they've seen using his LUTs. And at some
Wow.
point, I was going to go out and like shoot a video on using his LUTs and like how to use them, what they look like, and I just never got around to doing it yet. I was
Well,
going to try to get him to actually be on that video.
that's cool. And then
But,
it looked like you also had a video with Potato Jet too. Is he a friend of yours, or how did that come
I
about?
met him through YouTube, and he
Okay.
did an event. He had a dog that passed away that was a three-legged dog,
Okay.
and they said something in one of the videos about how they wanted to make a IPA named after him. So if they ever made a brewery or owned a brewery, they would do that. And then someone out of Indiana kind of messaged him saying like, "Hey, I run a brewery at this restaurant out in Mishawaka, and we'll definitely do this for you if you want." And so they had kind of like a canning release party that day, and pretty much the people that showed up to it were all like like YouTube people.
Okay. Cool.
So it's kind of a fun, like events like that are fun because I met like 20 different YouTubers and I have a relationship with a few different people as well. But I've been messaging back and forth with Gene for a year now at least. And the one time when he was at Josh's studio, he just messaged me I just like open Instagram and this is a video of him and Josh talking about my music video that I used his LUTs with, and
Oh
Josh was
man.
like, "That's like the best video I've seen using these LUTs yet." And it's just kind of like, "Oh, that's cool," and I wanted to reply back like right away, but
Yeah, see
never heard back from Josh. So,
that's the
but
kind of
yeah, I mean,
stuff
it's
I like hearing on YouTube. That kind of story right there. It just seems like it's such a cool community to be a part of,
mhm.
and stuff like that happening. It seems like it's happening all the time. Very cool story.
Well, it's a weird feeling to just think like someone like Gene would go hang out with him doing a video about their orbit thing that he was doing, and then somehow how my video came up in that discussion was kind of like, well, that's kind of
That,
flattering too. That like Gene remembered something I did and he showed it to Josh and he's like, oh, I know that kid, and or whatever might have happened that day. I don't exactly know how that came to be, but it's kind of flattering that you have those two, brought up something you did. So
that's
it's kind of fun. You
amazing.
never know. You never
And
know where your video is going to reach, and I guess like network with people, and it's just kind of a fun thing to do. And I met, yeah, like in Indiana, I met a few different YouTubers that I'm planning on down the road doing some stuff with, hopefully. So
well, I'm guessing from the way your channel's going, someday you will be collaborating with him, and I'll definitely be there to watch. That sounds like it would be an amazing collaboration.
yeah, it'd be fun to be able to go to California at this point. It seems like
Yeah,
it's
right.
everything's shutting down again over there. But
All right. Question number 7. What is your biggest hobby outside of content creation?
outside of content, well, so like Donna, I also was running a studio for a while.
Okay.
Um, we've been doing that for a few years. It started as something where we just bought a bunch of plugins to record our own stuff, and then 20 grand later, it was like a full studio, and then more money later, it was I don't know. We started recording other bands, and my friend that we work works with me, kind of took over that a lot. Mostly because I started doing YouTube stuff and just kind of got too busy for it. And because like doing producing music and recording stuff is, if you're doing like a full album, that's something that takes like a month to do. It's not a quick process to record, mix, master, get everything done. And it kind of came too time consuming. And then the guy I worked with, he just got really good at what he did, and so now he's still doing a lot of bands and some local bands. And you probably know one of them, maybe a band called Throw the Fight.
I guess to be
Maybe,
honest, I haven't heard of it, but
maybe I heard them.
uh,
They're like
uh,
a kind of a hard rock band. They're on Bullet Tooth Records or something, and they've done a lot
okay,
of
cool.
touring. And they just did Rock Fest out in Wisconsin. But
Okay.
we've been doing a lot of their like in between like full studio album stuff. Been putting out singles. I think they have a video that we did that has like 2.5 million views now or something.
Holy
And
cow.
so it's fun to see, the studio that I worked at and still kind of get its name out there a little bit. So it's something I definitely want to get back to. It's just like stepping away from music for the last year because of COVID stuff. It just haven't really gone back there a whole lot, and bands weren't coming to record as often during all this, which I
Hmm.
thought they would be doing. But so I would say, yeah, music is definitely one of the bigger hobbies. Um, I haven't really skateboarded in a while. I have my electric skateboard, the boosted board, and I ride that thing around a lot, but mostly just like traveling, hanging around, watching TV, movies. Obviously, just obsessed with like movies, and
And
all day
I'm
long, all
guessing,
I'm talking about at work is like something will happen. I'll like reference a movie, and sometimes people are like nodding at me like you're weird, and then other people are like, I get that. That's a line from this movie, and so yeah, I love film, if that makes sense.
but with all the stuff you're producing on YouTube and with your music career and stuff, you can't have too much time for all those other things. Yeah, I
This
mean,
last couple weeks, like I bit off more than I can chew with a video project that we did with Paul going to Florida.
okay.
I had this like big grand scheme on doing this thing where I shot like couple thousand, like couple second shots. I was going to edit this like super fast video with narration, and I'm still working on it. It's just being way more time consuming than I was expecting it to be. So I got behind a couple weeks on my channel, and now I just got another video I'm going to hopefully have out by Wednesday. So um, sometimes you just have to take a break from YouTube and just take a couple weeks off and get back to it. So that's where I'm at
Yeah,
right now with the channel.
that's a big thing. It's always good to recharge the batteries.
Hmm. You know, and like a gigantic channel, it probably hurts you a little bit to take a couple videos off, but you know, I'm still growing channel, so having a couple weeks off, I think I'm actually like 3 weeks off at this point. It's not going to destroy your channel by any means. It just, you pick up right back where you're at. So
Yep, and I've heard a lot of people say that with bigger channels, and as a fan of a lot of these bigger channels, it's never really bugged me when people take a break like that, and it just
yeah.
makes me, when they come back, it makes me want to watch their videos that much more, I guess.
Mhm. It kind of bugs me when they don't take a break. Actually,
Yeah, right.
like
I know.
you can see people burning out on YouTube.
Yep, you can.
They just, like, you could see they're not having fun. Their videos aren't funny, or like sometimes you'll see people who have kind of funny channels, and when they stop being funny, you're like, that person needs a break. Like, you can
Yep.
tell they're just into it too much. So yeah, if you could take if you're building a channel and you're growing, it's always important just to have time for yourself and family and life around you. You know, if it takes a week or two to take off, that's what it takes. So
Uh, Very good advice for anyone starting out a YouTube channel or podcast or anything creative. All right, number 8. First word that comes to mind when you think of North Dakota.
Fargo. I
Fargo.
think
There
that's
you go.
probably
Yep.
number one on the list, right?
Yep. I suppose. Yep. Uh, that's. I
I don't know if
suppose
you
that's
actually
what most
saw it,
people
but
would
I had
say.
a video I did where I did some outtakes, and I kept saying something in the video that sounded like super far. Like, I don't hear the accent as much as other people probably do, and I said something that was like super Fargo accented, and I just like kind of went with it. Just started. I don't know. There's like 1 minute joke, and after I got it edited, I was like, I gotta add this into the outtakes or something because it's too funny for
I'm
me.
gonna have
And
to check that out. What video is
I
that?
think it was the like ultimate ZV1 setup or something like that.
Okay, I'm gonna
Um,
find it. I can't wait to hear
yeah.
that.
First I said -0, and then I said something like, oh, you know, like it wasn't oh, you betcha, but it was something close, and so I just kind of went with it and kind of tried to bring in the Minnesota. I suck at the Minnesota accent
I'm gonna
when I
find
actually
it.
try to do it.
Yep.
So it's kind of funny that if I don't sound like I have one in real life, I can't fake it either. So
Right.
not
All
like the
right.
movie, anyways.
Number 9. What piece of gear has had the most impact on your workflow over the last year?
That is a good question. Workflow. Definitely not the A7S III because that takes like way more steps with color grading and
Yep.
um, honestly, I want to say back when I got the A6400, I would say like the 18-105 lens.
Okay. Yep.
It's an f4, so you never have to really worry about it being like too overexposed. Like when you're trying to when you get these like Sigma lenses, you tend to want to go to like 1.4 all the time, which is something you shouldn't do all the time. Um, just because you never get great focus when you're that low all the time, and it overexposes like crazy. And having that forced f4, and it's not crazy sharp, but it's like smooth, and it kind of gives this filmic look to it, which is cool. I just felt like that lens was so like versatile, being an 18 all the way to like a 105, and then on 105 on a crop body, so it's more like a 150 or almost a 200 with
Yep.
clear image zoom. But it had stabilization on it too, so like if you're ever using a 6400, you'll know how like shaky it can be with a Sigma 16 or a Sigma 30 or something like that.
Yeah, I
But having
basically
that
never even
stabilized
use it, and
lens,
yep.
yeah, that lens was like it's like a $400 or $500 lens used, but it's such a I felt like it was a game changer for this camera because it allows you, as long as you're not shooting at nighttime and you're not wanting it to be really close to you, because that 18 is a little tight for vlogging, but it's a great lens, and that made it able to just like go out and film and not have to worry about like changing ND filters and changing lenses to the right focal length. And like sometimes you get too involved with having all those extra lenses that you kind of just use the wrong lens for the wrong shot because you're getting lazy. We're like, well, I should grab my zoom, but I'm just going to keep the 16 on here or something. But
Yep.
when you shoot with that other camera, you have an unlimited amount of compositions that you can have in that focal range, anyways. And I think that's just nice for workflow because you can, I don't know, like if you're doing B-roll, you can kind of be a ways away from something, move a little bit, and then zoom in on it, and then keep moving, and you can just kind of like edit your jump cut there, and it makes it look like you did two separate shots, even though you kind of did it in one shot and you just moved the zoom a bit. So I think zoom lenses would be my answer.
Uh, that is something I'm looking at getting into because, like you said, it would make things a lot easier because I usually use my Sigma 16 millimeter, and that's why night photography is the photography I'm doing because
Mhm.
um,
Because you
it's
can.
nice to because I can. Yep,
Yeah.
and I don't have to swap lenses, and it just makes things easier. But it would be nice to have a lens that would be able to just be a little bit more versatile, even though I can't say anything bad about that Sigma 16 millimeter. It's
Yeah.
really nice.
I mean, it's shaky. It's lucky that it's a wide angle lens because it if it wasn't a wide angle lens, like my 56 and 30 are really shaky on this camera if you're not
Yep.
being careful with it or it's on a tripod or something. But yeah, like that 18-105 being a stabilized lens was it makes this camera feel like the A6500 or 6600 because that lens is quite nice when it's stabilized. So
Oh, I believe it. And that lens itself doesn't have stabilization in it either, does it? I'm trying to
the
remember.
18-105 does.
18 to 105 does? Okay.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
if you pair
and then
that
that
with the
has like power
66,
zoom. Everything stays inside the lens, which is kind of nice for
oh, very
like gimbal
nice.
work and stuff. So
Yep, sounds like a very nice piece of gear. All right, final question. Could you recommend a good EDC knife? I've seen the pictures on Instagram. I know you must be into EDC a little bit. I don't know if you've seen any of my like bug out bag videos on my channel or anything, but that's something that's always been kind of a fun hobby for me.
yeah, so as far as an EDC, like an everyday carry knife, I don't generally carry a knife with me. I have usually have one sitting next to my desk just for like unboxings. I wish I had one up in my like my kitchen where I tend to like walk in with the mail and set it down, but I end up grabbing like steak knives to like open boxes, which is not something you should do. But I think the knife I have on my Instagram was some cheap like $10 Amazon knife that looked cool. And it's like a big, huge, bulky, heavy, not super sharp knife, but I bought this like $4 knife at like a gas station that's real thin, it's black. It looked cool, and that kind of ends up being my unboxing knife down here. Um, so yeah, I mean, I just don't feel like spending a couple $100 on a knife. I guess that's not my thing. I guess so.
Right, yeah, and for unboxings, I've been looking at recently. It's I think they're becoming more popular, but it's just a holder for a razor blade, but it looks cool.
Hmm.
You can lock it into your pocket or whatever, and it seems like razor blades are perfect for opening boxes.
Hmm.
But yeah, as far as EDC knives go, I've found that I've just been carrying a Swiss Army knife just because it's small, cheap, and very effective when you need all the little tools and stuff. But
Yep. Yeah, actually,
well,
mine might have been a Menards knife, but yeah, it was like $5 either way. So
hey, it looked good on Instagram.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
well, I want to thank you for having you on the show. This has been a lot of fun for me, learning from another YouTuber, getting to hear your story a little bit more. Before you go, I'd like to, where can my guests find you? What would be the best place?
start with YouTube. You can search Kyle Watts. Otherwise, I think it's like YouTube. Was it youtube.com/Kyle Watts TV? They made you put like initials after your name nowadays. So
Okay.
otherwise, like Instagram, Kyle Watts. I think Twitter's Kyle Watts. I did this with a podcast with Jared, and there's another one that I can't remember that's not Kyle Watts. It's something else, but my TikTok might be like Kyle Watts 43 or something like that. I don't know.
Well, we'll have
But
to figure it out, and I'll have all your links in the description of this
yeah,
podcast.
I
And the
probably have like a link tree or something in my Instagram bio as well. So
that sounds good. Yep. So for any of you who want to check out his channel, definitely go over there. You're going to find a lot of great content. I've really enjoyed watching it and learning from his channel, and I know a lot of you guys would as well. So thanks again for being on the show.
yeah, thanks for having me, man.
Hopefully we can have you on again in the future. Someday when the channel's gets over 1 million, it would be fun to have you back on here, or even 100,000, or even
we'll shoot for 10. We'll shoot for 10,000 at this point.
10,000. Yep. I know you'll get there. So it would be fun to have you on again. So thanks again. And for my listeners, we've got a lot of fun guests coming up. Thank you for listening this week, and I hope you guys have a wonderful week. We'll see you next week.